Got a video by Kilo. What makes anime villains so good?
Villains, an archetype that has existed since the dawn of storytelling,
Meruem is peak. 10 out of 10.
whether it be millennial-old myths and tales or modern-day era blockbusters. Every story has a villain, and for decades, live action and cartoons have basically perfected how to make them an absolute spectacle. They gave us psychopath
Yeah, honestly, I watched Gravity Falls, and yeah, I forget his name. Was it Bill Cipher or whatever? He's a great villain, the little pyramid guy.
man-eaters like Hannibal, ruthless edgelords like Darth Vader, and even jealous throne snatchers like Scar. All
Yeah.
these villains are iconic and some of the best in their medium. But then you have anime, which is still relatively
I feel like the difference between like normal villains and anime villains is like anime villains tend to have more aura. Obviously excluding Darth Vader. Like Darth Vader has aura.
new when compared to century-old theater and live media. Yet in a few decades, the same medium has given some of the greatest villains of all time.
Yeah, people never stop glazing Johan, and I personally would say Aizen is the greatest main villain in shonen anime. The only shonen villains, shonen specifically, that come close to Aizen is like Meruem and Madara Uchiha. That's pretty much it.
In fact, I would even say that everything that Hollywood can do, anime just does it better. Some people call it aura, some people call it better writing, but to me, it all boils down to a single thing: the
It's just both, honestly. It's both.
approach.
Like anime villains, yeah, they have way more aura.
One of the key things that separates anime from other media is that anime doesn't treat its villains as another simple plot device. Instead, it actually treats
100%. I mean, dude, Nagato went insane, bro. Again, like the cycle of hatred speech was peak, and Meruem literally became a hero by the end of the Chimera Ant arc. Like, he became a good person.
them like they're the protagonists of their own story. Simply put, anime villains aren't just the bad guys because they want to do bad things, but they're often shaped by their experiences, the world around them, and their own logical ideas that make them stand in opposition to everyone else. This makes them not only independent characters that can exist without the need of the MC, but they can also
Dude, you know Johan is good if, like, I voted in, like, writing polls, and I'll choose, like, Griffith being the best written villain or whatever, and people will, like, still put Johan above Griffith. Like, people consider Johan a better villain than Griffith. That just tells you how good he is, or how much he's glazed at least.
be considered protagonists of their own narrative. I mean, just like how we all are in real life. One great example of such writing in anime is Griffith from Berserk. I know.
Yeah, most iconic villain.
I hate this guy too, who at the beginning of the story starts out as a secondary protagonist alongside Guts. He has his own ambitions, personal
Like, dude, before I even knew what Berserk was, I just knew people hated Griffith. I was like, wait, who is this guy?
goals, and a personality unique to himself that makes him just as much of an individual. To the point where even if Griffith never became a villain, he would have still lived his own story alongside our boy Guts. But that's why his transition into a villain is so great, because he wasn't just a simple plot device. He was the literal
You know what's crazy? I used to think that Griffith was like the most evil villain in like anime history, but then I saw this YouTube video by the Masked Man titled, um, I forget the title. I think it was something like "The Only Villain Worse Than Griffith," and it just he literally had Bondrewd from Made in Abyss in the thumbnail. And I watched his full video, and honestly, yeah, Bondrewd is insane and he's horrible, but I feel like I would say Griffith is still more evil than Bondrewd.
plot himself. This is something that's missing from characters found in a lot of other media, where the villains are just there to make the hero look good. Another thing that makes anime villains so much better is the fact that villains are given the time to fully develop their
Yes, I think it's extremely important to also give the villains development. Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen, Shigaraki from My Hero Academia, uh, Obito Uchiha, like, villains need development.
characters. That's why in the end we don't just see these characters as villains, but also as protagonists of their own stories. Even though a few extra episodes being reserved for a villain's introduction or backstory might seem like overkill, as most fans just want to see the main
In the long run, it's worth it. Like, I know people want to see BS, like, action shonen, but, like, the backstories of villains are worth it. It'll pay off.
Hero's journey, but these extra episodes allow the author to fully expand on so many things. Whether it's a villain's childhood where he was a victim of domestic abuse, or maybe his tragic love story which led him down this dark path. Small moments like these add extra layers to a villain's motives, which only makes their actions more justified and easier to comprehend. This
Dude, Obito's like the most layered character in Naruto for me. I know some people are gonna say Itachi or maybe like Nagato or somebody, or maybe even Kakashi, but like, dude, Obito started out like the same as Naruto. He was a good moral kid. He wanted to become the Hokage. Then, you know, crazy developments happen. Rin dies, he turns evil. And then finally at the end, Naruto uses Talk no Jutsu and Obito becomes good for the second time. And he sacrifices his life for Naruto. Obito is goated, bro.
way we can truly appreciate them for being a character of their own.
I know some people might say like Sasuke or whoever, but for me, in Obito was the best written character in Naruto for me.
Rather than just existing there for the sake of the plot. A clear-cut example of this would be Miriam from Hunter x Hunter.
Peak villain, bro. 10 out of 10. Literally equal to Aizen, bro. Equal to Aizen in terms of just overall writing. Like Aizen has way more aura, but Meruem's, dude, just watch the arc, bro. Watch Chimera Ant arc. The development, bro. Going from an evil ant villain just to becoming, you know, a good guy, gaining morality, playing chess with Komugi. It was beautiful, man. Hunter x Hunter is peak.
Imagine a world where they didn't give him time to
And again, even though I would say that Aizen is like the best villain in shonen, I wouldn't be mad if you honestly put Meruem above Aizen. I wouldn't be mad.
fully develop his character. Instead, they just rushed into the Battle of Netero. Would you still feel sad for him when he dies? Probably no, right? Because he wouldn't have the time to fully develop his character.
Dude, Netero's backstory was cool, bro. It's not even about like having sympathy for him. He was just cool. He did 10,000 punches every single day until he was literally able to do 10,000 punches before the sun came down. Dude, that went hard.
And grow into the Ant King that we all know and love. He wouldn't even have the time to fully develop his love chemistry of Komugi as well, nor would he have realized that humans aren't just food for his growth. All of these factors needed.
He's probably saying love chemistry in a general sense, but like I know some people ship Komugi and Meruem, but I don't think it was that type of relationship, to be honest.
Time to develop, and that's why I think anime villains are far superior to other forms of media, because anime doesn't fear giving its villain all the time they need for their own character development. Another reason that makes anime villains so good is their twisted view of the world that often mirrors the protagonists. You see, they don't just want to defeat the protagonists. What they want.
So honestly, if we're counting L as a villain, then yeah, he's literally peak. Like the dynamic, like the overall cat and mouse game between Light and L was just 11 out of 10, like genuinely peak. Death Note is my favorite anime of all time, and I don't think that's ever gonna change. The only issue is L technically isn't a villain, so it's hard to like actually put him in this like anime villain list, if that makes sense.
Is something even deeper. They want to defeat the
Like the villain is actually Light Yagami.
protagonist's view of the world and show them that they are wrong in their ways. That's why villains like Pain are so deeply loved by the fans, because they challenge the core ideals that
Dude, Pain was peak. He literally had Naruto on the ground and Naruto couldn't answer his question. Like, Pain was like, well, Naruto, what would you do to confront this cycle of hatred? And then Naruto literally says, I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
Naruto stands for. Pain believes that for world peace to exist, everyone must share mutual suffering. He doesn't believe in a world of equality where people aren't equally in pain. His conviction in this cycle of hatred was so powerful that even for a moment, even Naruto had to admit he had a point. That's why, to defeat Pain, Naruto didn't just have to defeat his 6 bodies, but also his ideology and his twisted view of peace. And also Naruto used his most powerful ability, Talk no Jutsu. The same could be said for villains like
Dude, I know a lot of people complain, oh, Naruto has no pure evil villains like Sukuna or whatever, or Majin Buu, but it's like, dude, that's the point. That's why Naruto's so awesome. It's probably a personal preference, but again, I just personally love, broken heroes, broken villains, essentially. Villains who get massive character development or have sad backstories. It's awesome.
Aizen and Doflamingo as well, who both had their own twisted concept of peace, equality, and freedom.
Aizen was so peak, he didn't even really need a true backstory. Like, sure, we saw like a little bit of his backstory. He saw the Soul King, he got angry, but like, Aizen didn't need a backstory. He's peak.
Aizen believed that for a world to exist in peace,
Aizen's the best villain in shonen anime.
it needs to have a ruler at the helm. That's why he believed that the Soul Society was dead, because his ruler was a half-dead man who only existed as a linchpin.
If you want to put Frieza, Perfect Cell above Aizen, Meruem above Aizen, if you want to put who was I thinking of? If you want to put Meruem above Aizen, that's fine.
To stabilize the three realms. So Ichigo didn't just defeat Aizen, he defeated his entire view of the world. Contrary to Aizen's belief, Ichigo held the belief that individuals should have the freedom of choice, and he believed that if everyone worked together, they should overcome everything. Just like Aizen, Doflamingo also believed that the powerful should have the right to do whatever they want. He believed in ruling through violence and had a god complex. So when my boy Luffy defeated—
Yeah, Doflamingo was honestly peak villain. Yeah, his backstory was good, and overall, Doflamingo, like, he's the best villain in One Piece as of right now. I'm hoping Blackbeard and Emu surpass him, but we just gotta wait and see.
him in Dressrosa, he didn't just defeat him, but he also defeated his ideals and the principle of violence that he stood for.
So Doflamingo felt like Nagato from like Naruto. Like, it felt like it was a similar fight, that clash of ideology. But it's also kind of like this huge fight after, the time skips in each respective verse. Like, again, Doflamingo versus Luffy really just reminds me of Naruto versus Nagato. Yeah, Dio is pure aura.
Everything that I've said until now realistically can be argued, but one thing that can be argued about is that anime villains just have so much aura. These motherfuckers be farming aura.
It's actually so weird. Like, I feel like the villains, let's count L from Death Note as a villain real quick. I feel like villains without backstories, even though I usually prefer villains with backstories, I feel like most of like the best villains don't have backstories. Again, Aizen from Bleach, like, that's all I really need to say, but I do also want to bring in L from Death Note. Now, L, I mean, he gets like a short backstory, but it's not like some huge backstory that makes us see L in like this hugely vastly different way.
Every chance
Yeah, it's just interesting.
they get. Eating chips while writing serial killers' names, farming aura. Dropping someone down the stairs, farming aura. Stopping the MC's theme with a finger, pure aura farming. Is there anything that these guys do that just ain't straight up aura farming? Aura farming in general has to be one of the best ways to make any character likable, whether it's a villain in a TV show or a villain in anime.
Yeah, it's actually really important and crucial, I'll be honest.
Just show them farming aura in front of the hero, and the audience will love them to death. I mean, just imagine the most iconic moment from Breaking Bad. It's literally Walter White asking the cartel guys to say his name.
Say my name.
And yes, I put this in here because I didn't want anyone to think that I only watch anime. Well, that's how important aura farming is. And I think no one does it better than anime villains. Look at all the iconic villains in the medium. Which one of them didn't gain popularity by farming aura? Literally no one. Even the simplest and worst of the villains who are always losing aura had farmed aura at one point during the show.
Yeah, Mahito popping a domain expansion, like a domain expansion randomly, was crazy. Muzan? I mean, Muzan got his chance to farm aura, but he was mostly aura farming like on his minions, on the upper moons, when he was like getting super mad and glasses were breaking and whatever.
I'm looking at you, Muzan. Another compelling argument as to why anime villains are so good is that they are highly intelligent. By intelligence, I don't mean they have a high IQ level like Lex Luthor from DC, but that the decisions they make don't make them look like complete idiots. In most forms of media, villains are often dumbed down to make the hero look good, but anime does it differently. It instead portrays them as highly intelligent and cunning beings who have perfect control over everything that they do. This doesn't just correlate with their high IQ, but also with their general intelligence. In Marvel or DC, there are some characters shown to have IQ levels above 200, but in reality, their general intelligence always seem to be subpar, and their decisions
Yeah.
only make them look stupid to the audience. On the other hand, we have anime villains like Light Yagami, who not only have high IQ levels, but are also generally smart in the decisions that they make. Every move they make has a reasoning behind it, which makes sense when looking at the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, Light Yagami was coming up with like some devilish demonic stuff, bro. Again, like the Death Note swapping and even just like the Ray Pember situation, dude. Light was a genius.
They don't just use their high intelligence to screw over the hero, but they use it to fulfill their own goals and motives. One of the most prevalent examples of this is of Johann Liebert. Johann is an enigma in the anime monster. For the majority of the series, we didn't even know if he was real, or something that Tenma had conjured out of his mind to justify his killings. Johann was intelligent. He manipulated everything to his own will in such a way that no one could track him down but one person. He led Tenma by his nose, and yet he still couldn't do anything to him. The anime didn't just achieve this by dumbing down Tenma's character, because boy was he a fucking idiot. It just made Johann that much smarter. So that's why it never felt unnatural seeing Johann always come out on top, despite Tenma having done everything right, and it really was just a skill diff. Another thing that makes
Yeah, Aizen goes insane with this. Aizen planned Ichigo's birth. He literally, dude, Aizen literally created Bleach. He's like, he's just a better version of Kenjaku from Jujutsu Kaisen.
Anime villains stand out compared to cartoon villains is that they are great manipulators. If
Makima is peak. Makima is a 10 out of 10 manipulator.
there is anything that separates a good villain from a great villain, is how manipulative they are. I mean, if you look into the most famous villains in other
Makima is honestly like a slightly a tier below like Aizen, Meruem, and Madara. Like Makima is genuinely peak. Just read Chainsaw Man Part 1. That went insane. But yeah, I wouldn't say she's like on the level of Meruem in terms of like writing, or on the level of Aizen in terms of writing, but she's right at the cusp.
forms of media, you would discover that the best villains are often those who are the biggest manipulators. Take Walter White for an example. He's a villain who is willing to manipulate even his own partner for the sake of his own goal. These masterminds bend the narrative to their own will, never hesitating to explore their family, friends, or the story's protagonists to get what they want. Even if we just purely talk about anime, one of the biggest and most
Yoshikage Kira, I wouldn't necessarily say he was like a huge ore farmer, but he was a very good villain. All JoJo's villains are pretty much peak.
Prominent examples that we have is that of Aizen. If you were to ask any anime fan who's the biggest manipulator in anime history, I'm pretty sure they would all have the same answer: Aizen. Aizen didn't just manipulate the story of Bleach, he planned it. Whether it was the birth of the protagonist or his gaining of all the cool transformation that he has, it was all according to his plan. He led Ichigo by the nose from the start.
Dude, Aizen as a whole, like as a villain, he carried Bleach, bro. Like, dude, the moment I saw Aizen in Bleach, like the moment everything was happening, you know, the fake Aizen assassination, he had a clone or a double of himself or whatever, that was just peak, bro. Like, I fell in love with Bleach right there, man.
He controlled his every action, every movement, and even the love
Probably the best way to implement a twist villain in anime.
of his life. He did all of this just to create a perfect opponent for him. Someone who would just push him over the edge to give him just the pressure he needs to achieve the perfect transcendence. Talk about dedication, man. Talk about dedication. All of the previous arguments led to this one last argument. An argument to end all arguments. Why are anime villains so good? I think the most factual answer to that is that they are strong. Madara, the strongest shinobi in history. A shinobi so strong that two of the greatest
I think on average, they're just better written, meaning that, yeah, they are stronger they do have better backstories usually. They aura farm.
Ninjas alive at the time had to team up to defeat him, and even then, they failed to defeat him. And instead, he fell victim to the same curse that every OP character had fallen to. Good
Honestly, this was a horrible way to like send Madara out though. Nobody liked Kaguya.
old plot armor. Madara didn't just bring fear to the heart of the Ninja Alliance, he brought despair. I mean, bro was literally dropping meteoroids on their heads. If that doesn't make you overpowered, I don't know what.
Yeah, dude. I remember dude, one of the Kage had to literally stop the meteor, and then Madara's like, what about the second one?
What does. But it doesn't stop at Madara. If you look at Miriam from Hunter x Hunter, he was literally the demon. Born at the pinnacle of evolution, Miriam was a natural born fighter.
I'll never understand people who say that Chrollo is a better villain than Meruem, better written. Like, here's the thing. I know Chrollo is incredibly complex, and I know his backstory is really effed up because apparently something really bad happened to one of his friends when he was a kid. But like, Meruem clears, bro. Meruem clears Chrollo in terms of writing.
And he showed it. Despite just being a few months old at the time, he made easy work of Netero, the strongest man in the world. Netero would have died a pointless death if he hadn't had a literal nuke planted in his heart. It took humanity's deadliest weapon to defeat Miriam. That's just...
You know, it's actually funny. Dude, so here's the thing. Everybody's thinking that Meruem was super overpowered, which he was, but the little rose bomb that Netero had planted inside of him, it was actually incredibly cheap, and it had been used by like a bunch of world leaders a bunch of times just for war. So my main point is Meruem always could have been taken out because the little rose bomb, there's like a bunch of them. Like there's probably millions of little rose bombs. It was heavily manufactured and it was extremely cheap and easy to make. So the Chimera Ants were never actually a real threat.
How strong he was. But I think the best example of an overpowered villain still has to be All For One from...
Yeah, All For One, he's peak, but he's not peak. All For One is like, he's a 9 out of 10 villain. He's not a 10 out of 10 villain. He's not up there with Meruem, Madara, Aizen, but like, he's right below them. He's a 9 out of 10 villain.
My Hero Academia. The prime All For One was moving like a demon.
Yeah, dude. My Hero Academia, it really like, dude, it really like perfectly completed the anime. Like, I remember there was a time where I just wasn't watching My Hero Academia as much. I wasn't hearing people talk about it. And it really just came back and like, it stole the anime community. Like, there's just a bunch of aura farming from All For One. We got to see Bakugo fighting All For One. Like, the ending was completely peak.
He traumatized not just one generation, but 7 generations of heroes. The trauma was so deeply rooted.
All For One is very well written. Like, honestly, just in general as an anime villain, again, he no diffs freaking Muzan in terms of writing. He's like a high tier anime villain, but he's not like up there with Madara and them.
That their last successor was literally having panic attacks just at the mention of his name. Bro was moving like King Von in his prime, sliming everyone who dared to stand up against him. It literally took the combined effort of 7 whole generations of heroes to take...
Horikoshi is pretty good at writing villains. I mean, we had Dabi with Dabi's depressing backstory due to Endeavor. We had Shigaraki. He has a sad backstory due to All For One, and then we have All For One. And we even got to see All For One's backstory, which was actually pretty cool. I would still say All For One is pure evil. You know, like, I get it. Okay, he cared about his brother, but overall, All For One he's pure evil. He's evil, man. But yeah, what I really found cool about My Hero Academia is we had three endgame villains. Like, we had 3 main villains at the end.
down this man. Even then, he left a whole country crippled. That's just how goated of a villain he was. This proves that having an overpowered villain isn't a bad thing. In fact, it only makes the plot more interesting. Even looking at recent examples in TV shows, we have characters like Homelander, who are shown to be extremely terrifying and strong. Does that make the show bad? No. In fact, it only makes it better. Every time these overpowered characters are shown on screen, it becomes a gamble to see what they'll do next. This shows that you can still make a good show while also having an overpowered antagonist at the same time. But please just give them a good conclusion and don't rush them like The Boys Season 5. Anime villains are good not because villains in other media
Jujutsu Kaisen suffered from that. Sukuna got a god-awful conclusion, to be honest.
are bad. It's just that anime takes the villains more seriously and gives them the screen time that they deserve.
It's so weird. I actually loved Dio's conclusion because it's so stupid though, because the only reason Jotaro won is because he got mad at Dio. Like that sounds so stupid when you think about it. You would be like, "Oh, wait, the JoJo's author doesn't know how to write. That's stupid writing." So just because Jotaro gets mad, he's able to one-shot Dio. But no, like as I was watching it, it was peak, and I still hold the same opinion now. Jotaro versus Dio was peak. It didn't feel like an ass pull. It didn't feel like BS writing. I don't know how to explain it, but it actually felt natural. And it's probably because Dio was this overconfident, arrogant, cocky villain, and he was narcissistic. He thought he could never lose. And honestly, Star Platinum probably was a stronger stand in the world. So I don't think Jotaro one-shotting Dio is completely stupid.
Whereas in other forms of media, the villains are just treated as convenient plot devices to move the story.
Honestly, if you want to write good anime villains, just look at JoJo's villains and look at Naruto villains. They have like the best villains in anime, for sure.
They are literally...
I would personally say Naruto villains are the best, but I'm not going to get mad at you if you say JoJo's villains are better than Naruto's. I'm not going to get mad.
The protagonists of their own story.
Yeah, and then honestly, even though L isn't a villain, or even though Light Yagami is the protagonist, Light was a peak villain, you know? Like, it's still weird because he was the protagonist, but he was a peak villain. And L was also a peak antagonist.